Alrighty, welcome to the Administration and Finance Committee meeting of November 7th, 2023. We have all trustees present except for Trustee Daryl D'Souza, Trustee Anisha Thomas, Trustee Herman Valor, and Trustee Stefano Piscucci. Trustee Herman Valoria will be joining us at 7:30 p.m. To start off, I'd like to start with our opening prayer. Trustee Bria Corbett.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and through you, in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. O Almighty God, our Father in heaven, from whom all goodness and truth on earth have come forth, grant to us, the Catholic community gathered at this meeting, the vision to recognize and the vigor to espouse sound principles of educational theory and practice in a spirit of balanced judgment and the proper perspective. Give us also the courage to turn always onto the path of higher goodness in our deliberations, administrative decisions, and courses of action. Amen. In the name of the Father, Son, Holy Spirit. Amen.
Thank you very much, Trustee Bria Corbett. Next, as to start off with our land acknowledgement, I would like to welcome Trustee Thomas Thomas.
We begin by acknowledging the land as always, not because it is an easy formula, because it is our call as an educators, indeed as people everywhere to work and live together on this land at this time, and to leave the land better than we found it, which is not an easy task. The land is rich in history and mystery. Without it, our lives would be but empty shells of nothingness. It's also a silent and debating witness, past harms and injustice, and our hopeful future conciliation and joy. The land, quite simply, is both physically and metaphorically an emblem of our lives together, working at redressing past harms which unfortunately exist today, times inside its sleep. We thanked the Michi Sagagi of the credit, our treaty partners who have been stewards of this land for generations. Together, we commit to beauty and peace and to fight justice and actively, passionately, absolutely create a future with hope.
Thank you very much, Trustee Thomas. Next, we move on to item A4, which is our approval of the agenda, which also includes 4A, the approval of the calendar items. Could I get a mover for the approval of the agenda? Moved by Trustee Thomas. Can I see all in favor? Please raise your hand. Thank you very much. Any opposed? Seeing none, the item has been carried. Next, we move on to item A5, which is our declarations of interest. Do we have any declarations of interest this evening? Seeing no declarations of interest, we move on to our next item, which is our approval of the minutes of the Administration and Finance Committee of September 12th, 2023, along with 6A, which is our business arising from the minutes, which is attached to that item. Could I get an approval for item A6? Moved by Trustee Luz Del Rosario. Can I see all hands up for approval? Thank you very much. Any opposed? Seeing none, carried. We move on to our next item, which is item B for awards and presentations. This evening, we're giving the Prime Minister's Award for Teaching Excellence. Director Mariam Mazarado.
Good evening, and tonight is another moment of pride for Dufferin Peel because it gives me great honor because we are very pleased this evening to recognize Reagan Johnson, a dedicated early childhood educator from St. James Catholic Global Learning Center. Her passion for all things science sparks a love of learning for children in her class. Reagan was recently selected as one of the 2023 recipients of the Prime Minister's Award for Teaching Excellence. So very pleased and proud of Reagan and her receipt of this honor and call her to come forward to be recognized by the Board of Trustees. Congratulations to Reagan.
Once again, congratulations to Rhea Johnson on behalf of the Board of Trustees. Next, we move on to, we have no delegations this evening, so we move on to item D, which is our reports from trustees for receipt. We start off with our first report from D1, which is our Ontario Catholic School Trustees Association.
Report, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Trustee Luz Del Rosario. Next is our good news items. Do we have any good news items this evening? Trustee Luz Del Rosario.
What's wrong with this mic? Now I know why Marriott's problem. I just want to share, this morning, I joined the Youth Faith Formation event at St. Marcellinus, where all the schools from Mississauga, Brampton Central participated in. And it's lovely to see our grade 7 and 8 students come in and really eager to do the youth faith formation. So I just want to share that, how it all came about, and they have activities and things that they do that they can help to bring to their schools. So thank you to the chaplaincy and the leadership of the St. Marcellinus for hosting that. And it's about 8 schools, I believe, from Mississauga, Brampton Central family of schools that hosted it today. So congratulations, and forward to seeing those activities that the children did. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much, Trustee Luz Del Rosario. Do we have any other good news items? Seeing none, we move on to our next item, which is item E, which is our reports from committees administration for receipt. To start off with item E1, our Community Planning and Partnerships 2023-2024 Annual Public Meeting. Superintendent Matthew Thomas.
Thank you. Good evening. Through the chair this evening, it is my pleasure to present, along with Manager of Planning Stephanie Cox and Senior Planner Joanne Rogers, the report that outlines Dufferin Peel's community planning and partnerships process. As part of our policy, there is a requirement to have an opportunity to invite organizations from the community to inquire whether there might be interest in sharing space or using space at Dufferin Peel facilities as part of the policy requirement. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Manager of Planning Stephanie Cox to present this evening's report. Thank you.
Thank you, Superintendent Thomas. Good evening, and through the chair. The Community Planning and Partnership Report that you have before you is the annual update of available space in schools that the board is required to share with community partners as per the board's Community Planning and Partnership Policy. As trustees are aware, the main purpose of the Community Planning and Partnership Policy is to encourage school boards to work with community partners in order to share facilities to the benefit of the school board, students, and the community, and to optimize the use of public assets owned by school boards. This is specifically for daytime use of space in open and operating schools, as well as any potential co-build opportunities. Similar to previous years, there is no listed space in existing schools for the 2023-2024 school year. Notwithstanding the number of shuttered rooms in the system, there are limited rooms that can be segregated from the rest of the school building with separate access and available washrooms to ensure that any potential partners can be self-contained. Any available space is limited to FDK rooms, which have separate access and existing washrooms. Staff would review requests for these types of rooms on a case-by-case basis. The board currently hosts 7 existing community partners, which are located in schools where they are self-contained and have separate access to their space. Each partner has entered into a binding agreement for the space and is charged a cost recovery fee for the use of the space. Notwithstanding, there are no new opportunities for partnerships at existing schools. Co-build opportunities will continue to be considered through future capital priorities requests. In addition to the annual Community Planning and Partnership Report presentation, partnership opportunities can be requested throughout the year, and further information and the CPP application form can be found on the board's website. This concludes the presentation, and Senior Planner Joanne Rogers and I are happy to answer any questions trustees may have.
Thank you very much for that presentation. Do we have any questions from trustees in regards to this presentation? Seeing no questions. Once again, thank you very much. Next, we're moving on to our next item, which is item E2, our September 28th, 2023 enrollment report. Once again, Superintendent Matthew Thomas.
Thank you. And through the chair, once again, I'm going to invite Manager of Planning, Stephanie Cox, to present this report.
Thank you. And again, through the chair, this report that you have before you, starting on page 21 of the agenda, is regarding the collection of student enrollment data as of September 28th, 2023. As noted in the report, Dufferin Peel reported a total of 71,457 students, 41,350 elementary, and 30,107 secondary students. This is a decrease of 1,178 elementary students, however, a slight increase of 58 secondary students from September 2022. The enrollment report attached as Appendix 1 breaks down enrollments by school and by grade at both the elementary and secondary panels. Difference in enrollment for each school between September 2022 and September 2023 is also identified in the last column on the page. The report notes that there's a total of 235 remote students between the elementary and secondary panels. There are 116 elementary students and 119 secondary students currently enrolled in remote learning. Planning staff will bring forward the October 31st enrollment information, which is a Ministry of Education mandated report, to the next available Administration and Finance Committee. This concludes the presentation, and we're happy to take any questions.
Thank you very much for that presentation. To the trustees, do we have any questions? Trustee Bria Corbett. If anyone online has any questions, just feel free to message me in the chat box. Thank you, Trustee Corbett.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and through you. So my question is regarding the French immersion program at Divine Mercy Catholic Elementary School, specifically on page 27 of the agenda. So parents of Divine Mercy school community, they've reached out to Chair Del Rosario, Trustee Valoria, and myself to express their desire to have their children in the French immersion program at one school. So currently the French immersion program only goes to grade 4 at Divine Mercy, and then students are required to switch to Our Lady of Mercy for the French immersion, grades 5 to 8. And the sister schooling arrangement between Divine Mercy and Our Lady of Mercy, it continues to be part of our discussions, long-term facility master plan. In explaining to the school community that the plan was initiated because there wasn't space at one school or the other at the time to accommodate all of the grade 1 to 8 program. Last night, Trustee Valoria and myself attended the Catholic School Council meeting at Divine Mercy, along with Associate Director Del Bianco, Superintendent Thomas, and Superintendent Odo. And we had the opportunity to hear parent feedback. Some of the challenges associated with ensuring continuity of Catholic education for the students in French immersion, and how it's important to remove barriers for those families. Noting that there is a significant amount of disruption that's caused when siblings are separated, when students have to leave the school, the community they're part of. It's difficult for parents doing drop-offs, pickups at both schools, even though there are staggered times. And parents have noted that it would seem that there is technically room at the school to accommodate all of the students. However, we know that it's not that simple to just move students. So through the chair, my question is really around what are the implications, what are the considerations for consolidating French immersion programs, not just this program, but in a more of an overview of the French immersion programs at the board?
Through the chair, thank you for the question, Trustee Corbett. And thank you for indicating, providing the overview of the meeting, the Catholic School Council meeting from last evening. So the consolidation of French immersion programs across a number of schools has to be considered in the context of Dufferin Peel's overall challenge right now with with respect to underutilization. And we're looking at, and we being the planning department, is already undertaking an early examination of opportunities for considering potential French immersion consolidations within the larger context of ensuring that there is a rebalancing of enrollments across schools. We do have many schools right now that have experienced significant decline in enrollment compared to where they were 10, 15 years ago, when decisions were made to split French immersion to the sister school model that you've noted, Trustee Corbett. And now the pendulum is kind of shifted to one where we have a lot of available space. So it is something that is on the radar for the planning department. As I mentioned, it has to be examined within the context of looking at our overall enrollment and capacity picture and what makes sense in terms of balancing enrollments. Also looking at the implications of what a consolidation might do both for the receiving school and the school losing students. And that also has to be factored in. So that work is underway and we hope to have more to report in the near future.
Thank you very much, Trustee Corbett. Next, I have Trustee Bruno Ainika.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. In looking at the numbers, I'm kind of wondering, are we providing, we always provide the best education that we possibly can to the students in the school. I get that, I understand it. When you're at 142, are we optimizing that? And, or it doesn't have to be 142, it could be 160 or 70, whatever that number, under 200. Are we optimizing the educational value the kids are getting at that level? Those numbers.
Through the chair, thank you for the question, Trustee Ainika. To be fair, that's a pretty, that's a question with a lot of different layers that you can examine that through. At the end of the day, I would argue that students, in order to have the best possible education, should be offered the opportunity to have a breadth of programming choices, an opportunity to also experience the most opportunity to extracurricular activities as well. And sometimes in smaller schools, it is a challenge to offer the sort of breadth of programming and extracurricular opportunities that a student might find in a larger school. So while there isn't a specific number that I could point to that's, is the optimal size, I think it's fair to say that there are definitely opportunities that students in larger schools would have that perhaps those in smaller schools may not.
I'm wondering, Mr. Chairman, does staff have any idea when the moratorium on closing schools would?
Through the chair, no.
So we're still waiting until the next, assuming the next election, so that be an assumption that I could make? Because there are some schools that down the street from each other that could literally amalgamate one, but again, with moratorium.
Through the chair, if I could just add on to that, not only do we not know when the moratorium will be lifted, there's also a number of things that have to happen once it's lifted. For example, they have to reestablish what the accommodation review process may look like, because that was one of the consultation pieces that was going into the freeze, is that maybe we're not consulting enough. They want to revamp it from a provincial level, and then we would have to adopt that as policy. So there's still consultation that's required on that. So not only do they have to lift the moratorium, but they have to also lay out the rules of engagement for the future accommodation review processes. So we don't anticipate this happening anytime soon.
If I could just out there, Mr. Chairman, if I could ask staff, if a school community were to say we would entertain moving to another school, whatever the school is, down the street, up the street, it doesn't much matter. in order for us to have more kids in the school, better opportunity for extracurricular, not having to go with another school to get those trips that some of the kids miss out on. And I always think back of what happened at St. Mary's. That community said, you know, like, you have to do everything with that school. Right? They said, yeah, we're in. Let's do it, right? It wasn't like the board said we want to do it. Parents were saying. So if school community wanted that and the majority of parents were okay with it, we just do it, or do we have to get permission again from the ministry?
So through the chair, pre-moratorium, it's something that we can deal with here at the board table to start an accommodation review process. But with the moratorium, there's nothing that we can do to provide that accommodation review. We're frozen.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Trustee Nika. Do we have any other questions? Seeing no questions, thank you very much to our planning staff for those two reports. Next, we move on to item E3, which is our Stop Our Governance Committee for March 23rd, 2023 minutes. Superintendent Matthew Thomas.
Thank you. And through the chair, the minutes of the March 23rd, 2023 Stop Our Governance Committee are there for trustees to review, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much. Do we have any questions in regards to the Stop Our Governance Committee meeting? Seeing no questions, thank you very much. Our next item is item E4, which is our Student Transportation Update and Delivery. Superintendent Matthew Thomas.
Thank you. Through the chair, I'm actually going to invite General Manager of Stop Our, Anna Gentile, to present this evening's report.
You, Superintendent Thomas, and through you, Mr. Chair, before you is a student transportation update and service delivery report. Beginning with the bus operator driver update. STOPAR has transportation contracts with 4 bus companies who operate 9 divisions in our area. As per the report, one of those bus operators had several driver resignations in the month of September. These driver departures were unexpected and left the operator with routes that could not be serviced with dedicated drivers. STOPAR staff monitored that operator closely and redistributed the unassigned routes to other carriers who were able to service them consistently. At this time, all other operators have sufficient drivers, and STOPAR is satisfied with the service being provided to date. Moving along to our school bus delays. So we all know that in the first few weeks of school, there are always a higher number of delays than the rest of the school year. Some of the reasons are listed in the report, and they include bus drivers as they become familiar with their new routes in real time, parents who are at the bus stop who want to meet and speak with the drivers, schools who are taking extra time to load students on the correct buses at the end of the day, bus drivers who are ensuring the primary protocol students are getting off at the correct stops and are being met by their parents and guardians. And lastly, there is always heavy traffic congestion in school zones as parents like to drive their children to school in the first few weeks of school. These delays do decrease from week to week, and you will see a drop in the late buses on the chart in Appendix A that is included in the meeting package. The chart shows the number of delays per week in the month of September for all schools in the Dufferin-Peel Catholic District School Board. You will see it starts with a higher number of delays in the first couple of weeks of school, and then you can see that the numbers begin to trickle downwards. STOPAR staff have also provided us with the top 3 schools that had the most delays in the month of September. St. Aidan and St. Cecilia are on the list due to insufficient driver coverage at that division. STOPAR staff have resolved these delays by reassigning open routes to other operators. Cardinal Ambrosic is on the list due to unexpected road closure in the area. Our staff have since rerouted those buses to avoid those closures and updated their schedules. Now that these 3 delays have been resolved, we should not see these schools in the top 3 on the next report. continuing with the Chipmunk School Bus Tracking app. So we are continuing the pilot phase of the Chipmunk School Bus Tracking app. There are some issues that have come to light through the testing and from feedback, and Stop Our staff are working with the developer on solutions. Our team has been meeting with the developer on a weekly basis, and they are confident that they will be able to address these issues by the end of this month. Our target date for a full launch is still within this school year, and we will provide further updates as they become available. This is the end of the student transportation update and service delivery report, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much for that Stop Our presentation. Do we have any questions? Once again, online, do we have any questions? Seeing no questions, thank you very much for that presentation. We move on to our next item, which is item E5, our Ontario Catholic School Trustees Association resolutions. Superintendent Vecchio. Well, it will actually be presented by Director Marian Mazzarato.
Yes, good evening. I'm stepping in for Superintendent Vecchio this evening, and I'm pleased to present the report on the Ontario Catholic School Trustees Association resolutions, which is a work that trustees do on an annual basis. So the report outlines the deadlines for submitting those resolutions. The deadline for this year's resolutions is February 9th, 2024. The report also includes the resolutions that were put forward by the trustees of the Dufferin Peel Catholic District School Board for 2023, so that you have reference to previous resolutions that were put forward last year and the outcome of those resolutions. This evening is basically intended to draw trustees' awareness to the deadlines associated with the resolutions, to take any suggested resolutions by trustees so that staff can support trustees in developing wording around them. And even if they don't have them this evening, they can be forwarded to Superintendent Vecchio, who will work on putting together proposed resolutions to bring forward at the next committee or board meeting. That concludes the presentation, and I'm pleased to take any questions.
Thank you very much, Director Mazzarato. Do we have any questions? Trustee Bruno Inica.
Mr. Chairman, the resolutions that we have put forth in the past, the ones that don't pass the board, we reissue them the following year, or they just go away? I'm trying to remember. I don't recall, to be quite honest.
Through the chair, it depends. First of all, I would say that Dufferin Peel has a pretty excellent track record of either getting resolutions that go to the floor or and get approved on the floor, or they are referred to committee. So there very few are ones that just fall off. It depends on the relevancy of it. So if it continues to be relevant for the trustees, then it would be one that you would consider to bring forward.
If I could, Mr. Chairman, just with regards to, I believe that we put one in for impact and the incorrect identification of Catholic rape. In fact, Trustee Stefano Pascucci's last year, Catholic given up public. And people in my area, I know the people this board that I represent in Ward 7, a lot of the people, husband and wife, would show up, and the husband would get a Catholic ballot. The wife got a public ballot, and she asked him if I had hired. I mean, I think everybody experienced that. Is that, I don't remember what happened to that.
Through the chair, page 53 of the report in your e-agenda this evening identifies the 2023 resolutions that went to the AGM with directives. And number 3 is in fact that item, municipal voting, and it was approved at the last AGM.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much. Trustee Luz Del Rosario.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a follow-up to that question. I did follow up on the status of that resolution. So they had sent the letter to the Elections Ontario with the Ministry of Education. And it was raised immediately. We received a letter, OXA received a letter from them, basically saying that they acknowledge that they're reviewing it, and pretty soon it's going to be fixed. So it guaranteed. And just a follow up on the other two items that we submitted last year, they were all approved. These three were all approved. And the funding for technology and funding for tutoring have all been included in the financial brief, the GSN brief, and also going to be included in the 2024 budget to update everyone.
Thank you very much, Trustee Luz Del Rosario. Do we have any other questions in regards to this item? Seeing no questions, thank you very much, Director Mazzarato. Next, we move on to item F, which is a reports from committees, administrations requiring action, and we have none. We have no additional business this evening. We move on to item H, which is questions asked by trustees. Trustee Bruno Ainica, and sorry, before you begin, anyone online, please feel free to message me in the chat box. And Trustee Bruno Ainica, could you just be closer to the mic for me?
And
Thank you very much.
I have 4 questions. I will stop at 3, and once you're done, last. Trustee Del Rosario and I were at one of the secondary schools of this board that we represent, and the parents were actually extremely unhappy with the bathroom situation. And in fact, they were saying that some of the bathrooms are so disgusting that kids called the parent, come and pick them up, go to the bathroom. One instance, somebody just doesn't drink during the day, so they don't have to go to the bathroom. It's more of a situation or scenario of TikTok challenge. So they go in and there's people doing their, in the way that it was explained last night. In the girls' washroom, they will go in. Girls sit down on the floor. Ask me why. I find it disgusting, but I know that the school does everything in their power, and Del Rosario can, to ensure that when the soap dispenser is ripped off the wall and the toilets are jammed with everything else, that our staff do go in, and then 2 days later, according to the parent, and whether it is or it isn't the situation, other secondary schools are in the same boat, and I'm not sure. I spoke to one principal that Luz and I shared today, and she advised that school that she came from still having issues. I'm not sure what we can do. I mean, I'm all for as much discipline as to the principal. Part of a volleyball game. I mean, when kids can't go to the bathroom in peace, it's an issue. I don't know how extent that issue is or isn't, but if staff could investigate and kind of, I'm worried about the kids being able to go to the bathroom. In fact, some of them go to Hero Park. That's because of the school. They do what they want in that municipal park. It's municipal property.
Through the chair, that is concerning information. We will enter into a conversation with the principals to try and understand what's causing those circumstances where students don't want to use the washrooms, with the intent of trying to put some processes in place to correct it.
If I could, Mr. Chairman, has any response been received by staff on the plan to have the CEC as the master holder of any agreements with the city so that the schools can have raffles which generate funds, for schools, and school clubs?
So through the chair, we did take that question back and have met with council, who is still looking into that. So we do not have a response as yet, but we are working on it.
And if I could, on that question, Mr. Chairman, if I could, is that also for the amount of money that a school raises and they donate it to a Jerry Fox, for the sake of an argument, because a lot of kids, or Share Life, where the names of everybody that donated would go into a bin, and you pull the name and you get the tax receipt? Is that being investigated as well?
Through the chair, we did look into that, and based on rules on the CRA website, that cannot be done. That third-party charity would not be able to provide one tax receipt that could be raffled off to anybody.
Going back to the funds that schools need. Again, at last night's council meeting, Trustee Del Rosario and I were there, and the principal referenced that out of 1,100 students, 411 paid their activity. Now, that number went up to about 73%, or 800 out of 1,100. And staff keeps reminding those students that can pay. They know that a student can't pay, then they don't continue to ask for it. And I know that it's a voluntary thing, but so much good and an experience happens. And we've talked about the fact that secondary schools have been decimated by the steps that have been taken that have restricted their level of funds generated in a school. And so are we doing anything that can help them? And I don't mean funds from the board. I mean in general, of trying to get everybody to pay activity fees. I don't think I'm the only one thinks that the activity fees, whatever the activity fees go to, actually gives some kids the most greatest experience that they'll ever have. So are we doing anything, or can we do it? Is it just voluntary?
So through the chair, the activity fee does have to be voluntary. That is right in the guidelines for fees for learning materials and activities. We can't get around that fact that it will be a voluntary fee. Now, there is a work group that we've formed. We're continuing to do some good work with that work group, looking at the activity fees, looking at other fees in the school. And some of the discussion really is about how to present that activity fee as doing so many good things for students that parents and students will want to pay that. One of our recommendations is to make sure there's a good description of how those activity fees will be utilized at the schools. So there's still work going on with that. Hopefully that will do some good in that regard. The other thing we're hearing that's really seems to be evident across all our schools, and I'm sure everyone has felt it. A lot of our families are experiencing financial hardship, and it's really hard time right now for families. So we're feeling that that's part of it as well. Not sure there's much we can do with that, but we are working with the secondary schools to give them ways to present this information. Again, express the good that these fees are doing, and then look for other ways to perhaps have to introduce different fees, like fee for service type. So if you're not involved, you're not paying, but if you are involved with something, then you would maybe be asked to pay a fee. There's still a lot of work going on and a lot of discussion, but yeah, still can't get around the voluntary part.
I'll finish now, Mr. Chairman, with my
Thank you very much, Trustee Anika. Do we have any other questions? Trustee Bria Corbett?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and through you. Attending one of my Catholic School Council meetings for one of the schools I represent, the parents raised concerns around secondary cafeteria prices. They said are too high for students. For example, what I was told was $4.50 for a bottle of water, $5.50 for fries. Understandably, food prices have increased since the pandemic, but is there any way these cafeteria prices can be more reasonable for students or regulated with our cafeteria providers?
So through the chair, thank you for that. We did some work looking, we went right back to our cafeteria provider to do inquiry because we do have a contract with our providers. And I think what we were seeing is there are prices for certain products, but then there's specialized products. So in the case of a water, there's such a thing called vitamin water or a different type of water, and that's where you're getting that dollar amount from. And a regular bottled water would not be that price. With the fries, that's also a specialized product like poutine. So it's an enhanced product to fries where you see the price a little bit higher. Those are not the prices for just regular water or fries. We do check in with our providers on a regular basis. We've been doing that almost daily for 2 months to make sure they're abiding by the contract, doing the work they're supposed to do, doing the advertising, the signage, working with the school, making sure announcements are made, encouraging the use of the cafeteria by the students. So we are out there on a daily basis, working alongside them and making sure we hold them accountable for the work they're doing.
Thank you. And through the chair, so along the same lines, has there been a survey yet for parents, for students to be able to provide their feedback? Because now that they've been opened for about 3 months, it would be helpful to gather that input.
Through the chair, the survey has not been done yet. It is on the purview to be done. That the providers have to do a survey within the first year. So we've really finished just a couple of months, and it takes a while for them to get started, start up, and actually feel good about all of their operations. We've encouraged them to do just some on-the-ground surveys, like talk with students, get out there in the cafeteria, ask questions, monitor what their sales are, what's doing well, what makes sense for their communities. But the actual survey probably won't get done sometime into the next half of the year.
And through the chair, around food trucks. So in one of the secondary schools that I have, they had food trucks on site for an event. Prices were again very high. So to give you an example, small fries, $7, large was $12, poutine was $13, pulled pork $16, sausage on a bun $7, hot dogs 6, chicken finger and fries 15, rice balls 10, deep fried pickles 10, mac and cheese bites 10. So my understanding is we don't currently have a policy or a gap around food truck policies, pricing. Is there something that we can do to establish guidelines, at least for our schools? We necessarily can't set the prices for the food trucks, but is there some guidance that can be provided for schools in terms of their selection of food trucks and what they're going to be charging students?
So through the chair, the short answer would likely be no. There's really nothing we can do. Food trucks are not in our jurisdiction. They're independently operated. We really have nothing we could do to control their operations. So I can't see that there's anything we can do as a school board, aside from maybe not use them, or I look for other options, but I don't think there's anything we can do.
I have Director Mazzarado also with a response.
Through the chair, we will confirm with the schools that food trucks should not be coming on school property. I appreciate that perhaps maybe the elementary schools might bring them in for special events because they wouldn't have cafeterias, but they definitely should not be on the school properties of our schools that have cafeterias. So we can follow up on that. We're going to follow up because if they're coming on our school property, then we need to understand better what the practice is.
Thank you, Director Mazzarado, and through the chair. I raise this because I am concerned it may be conflicting with the contracts we have with our cafeteria providers, but these food trucks are coming on site during school time for special events. It's not every day, but it does put us in a difficult position when students now are being drawn away from the cafeterias and supporting food trucks that have inflated prices. They are really gouging the students, and it's student feedback that I received as well as from parents.
Thank you very much, Trustee Corbett. Is that all your questions? All righty, any more questions? Seeing none, Trustee Brunei-Niken.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just with regards to Trustee Corbett's conversation on cafeterias, we were at school that Luz and I represent last night, and it's nothing but glowing. Parents were saying, my son or daughter, they don't want a lunch. They want to eat from the cafeteria. And the variety is great. At the beginning, not so much because they had staffing issues. As time went on, the parents, they all, not one of them barked at what was available or the quality. So I can tell you that this particular area, the company is doing quite well and satisfied customers, satisfied. Mr. Chairman, my last question is, we issue a notice to educate our parents that there are two means that they can donate funds: cash online, which is not really preferred because you don't get a receipt, and then but also going to the Dufferin Peel website and donating and getting a receipt. I don't think that a lot of parents are aware of the two options, and we make it very clear. I mean, we found it pretty quick on the website. I don't think parents go to that step because they're not aware that it's there. Maybe in a whether it's a school newsletter that it gets just a bullet to say, if you're donating cash, go here, you'll get a receipt. Do cash online, not gonna get a receipt. Is that something that we can look into? Because the parents last night, some of them, please correct me if I'm wrong, they didn't have a clue.
Yeah, so through the chair, absolutely. We can work with the schools to get that kind of messaging out. to parents so they know, if they strictly just want to make a donation to the school, then of course donation module is the best way to do that. Just, I have to be careful about a blanket statement. If it's a certain type of fundraising, we have to work with the school and how they're going to run it to make sure that whatever the event is, that it is eligible for tax receipts and how they donate the money. So, but pure donations, we'll make sure we get that notice out. And then we'll continue to work with the schools. I know we have some training times coming up with secretarial staff and tell them how, just to reiterate how the systems work well for those purposes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mentioned something and
Thank you very much, Trustee Nika. Trustee Luz Del Rosario.
Just to follow up on that one, I think what we heard last night was not a lot of them go to the website. I know it's in the website, and one of the vice principal even showed it and says, it's here. But they did say it's not in the website. But I thought in one of the reports that you did, when they go into cash online, I thought there's a portion there for donation. Wasn't there?
Yes, through the chair, you can access it different ways, right from being in school cash online or right from the quick link from the website.
If they do it through cash online and they click on donation, they will get a receipt.
Through the chair, yes. If you use the donation module strictly for pure donation, you will get a tax receipt right away.
Doesn't matter how much, or from
Correct. Doesn't matter how
$10,
much.
$20. Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much, Trustee Del Rosario. Trustee Bria Corbett.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. To that point, schools continue to promote the cash online, though. Very few mention the donation module. And when they're directing parents to the cash online, they are telling them that they are getting a tax receipt. So there's information that's not necessarily correct that's being shared with parents. So I think that's part of it. The other part of it is schools really don't want to use the donation module because they've told me that it's delayed in getting the funds to them. They also don't get a report like they do with the cash online. They can log in and see day to day how much funds they're raising and who has submitted and how much, as opposed to the donation module is again delayed and it's essentially anonymous. They don't know. So if they're going to do a prize for the top 3 donations, they don't know that information. So there's been feedback that's been shared from schools in terms of the disadvantages for them to change their practice and use the donation module.
So through the chair, my recommendation for the most part would be to have schools reach out to our system support team. They're very well versed in the use of all of the systems, and they are there to support the school and can help them with their questions and how to communicate information.
Thank you very much, Trustee Corbett. Would you like to continue with your other question?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and through you. Next question is around school messenger communication. And at one of the Catholic school councils I attended, parents raised the issue that when communication comes from school messenger, either from the board level or from the individual local school, they would rather have it as an attachment instead of a link. So the link apparently is problematic because it needs to be downloaded. It requires several steps to open it, especially if they're using a mobile phone. And sometimes those links don't download properly because it has to go through the server. So ultimately, we have parents that aren't reading any communication because it's too many steps and it's tedious to do. So I was asked if I could provide parent feedback in terms of how we could improve the communication to parents so that maybe the information itself is embedded in the message as opposed to a link or a PDF. Sometimes it's not possible, but or maybe we provide both the link and the PDF, if that's even possible. So I'm just wondering if there's a way to improve that for parents.
Bruce?
Through the chair. School Messenger is a little bit of a different animal in terms of attaching files, attaching bulletins, et cetera. They actually get attached or embedded in School Messenger's own server. So, and they appear in the message as a link. So in terms of attaching files the way that we would in a regular email, doesn't really work that way with School Messenger. We will undertake, however, in terms of embedding the message itself, if it's a short message, we can absolutely do that, encourage schools to do that as well, right in the message. But barring a short message, so it's long, such as the weather bulletin, which is 10 pages, there's really no other way to do it. It will appear as a link. We can, and there are some phones apparently that are mobile devices that will have some trouble. They can't just open it. There's a couple of extra steps, but perhaps we can put a little more fulsome information together in issues and events that explains that, so everybody will have that response if needed.
Is that all? Thank you very much, Trustee Corbett. Do we have any other questions? Seeing no questions, we move on to our next item, which is item I, declared interest items. We have none this evening. Next, we're going to be moving into our in-camera session. At this time, I'm requesting a motion to move into a closed meeting as discussion will involve financial information in respect of the board, committee, or an employee. Trustee Bruno Inica. Any opposed? Sorry, all in favor, please put your hands up. Thank you very much. And any opposed? Seeing none carried, we will be taking a 10-minute recess break to close the doors. We'll be meeting back at 8:10. Thank you.
Okay, welcome back. During the in-camera session for November 7th, 2023 for the Administration and Finance Committee meeting, trustees approved the minutes of the in-camera session of September 12th, 2023. We approved recommendations made to the Board of Trustees from the Administration and Finance Committee regarding school board financial matters, and we addressed questions asked by trustees of an in-camera nature.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Trustee Priya Corbett. We,
Need to approve that.
can I get an approval of the in-camera? report? Moved by Trustee Luis Del Rosario. All in favor? Can I get your hands up? Thank you very much. Any opposed? Seeing none, carried. We have our next meeting on February 13th, 2024.
February.
Righty. Can I get a motion to adjourn?
What am I gonna do in the meantime?
Moved by Trustee Anisha Thomas. All in favor? Any opposed? All righty.
Thank you. Good night, one and all.
Thank you, Maria.
Ciao, buddy.